Hey there, guys. It's me, Dirt Muffin here. For Chapter 4 of the Golden Armor, Sour and Sweet Lunches. Yeah. So, Chapter 4. Comet stood in line at the mess hall with his head hanging low. His left eye was now swollen, and he could only keep it half open. The nurse had offered him an eye patch, but Comet was still resolutely angry with the morning's events when he said no. Now, he wished more than ever that he had said yes. Corporal Feathermane and Angel had gotten along straight out of the starting gate, while he had sulked the whole morning. Their first lesson, being in the Royal Guards, had been to correct the way dress injuries. Had been the correct way to dress injuries, and was demonstrated at Comet's expense. The nurses had left his hoof alone, so it endured 2 hours on it. How to apply a proper splint to a broken hoof, even though it wasn't broken. Angel had been so giddy she had forgotten the rule not to rub the piece of wood on the limb and left Comet with several splinters. Now, at lunchtime, Comet wanted nothing more than just to go home. So far, this whole ordeal with the Royal Guard had been nothing but pain and embarrassment. When he finally reached the point where he could grab a tray, he found his favorite meal of roasted carrots and fresh oats was out, and Comet dejectedly took a bowl of cream spinach. He put the tray in his mouth and slowly trotted to an empty table in the far corner of the mess hall. Guards' ponies all over talked to each other, forming some cliques. Comet, the social butterfly sat alone at the table, visibly upset. As he sat there and slowly chewed at the repulsive slop, he heard the hoofbeats of other ponies behind him, as well as their excited chatter.
"Hey, what's he doing at our table?"
Came an annoyed voice. Comet sat there, using his incredible reserves of willpower to ignore the chatter of the guards.
"Hey, I'm talking to you, stupid," the same voice came.
Then, before Comet could react, he felt his face meet the cream spinach and subsequent bottom of the bowl. His nose hurt. The spinach stung his black eye, causing him to cry out in pain. Laughter of all sorts burst out behind him, and hoof bumps were made. Comet felt an unusual urge to cry and perk up in his chest, and he tried his best to suppress it.
"Just who do you think you are?"
Came in an unusually loud voice. Comet automatically recognized the voice as Angel's, and dread crept into his chest cavity. The fluttering of the bat wings came from somewhere around him, and then some hoofbeats. Before she could say anything else, though, another voice rang out.
"Captain in the hall!"
Echoed around the building, and all the conversations ceased. The room was quickly filled with the tense silence as a set of hosts steadily approached where Comet was sitting. A couple of nervous whispers echoed around Comet, but he couldn't understand them. The hoofbeats finally clicked to a stop, and so did Comet's heart. There was only one captain in the entire Royal Guard.
"So, you think it's funny to mistreat a fellow guard?"
Came the commanding voice of none other than Shining Armor. The ponies behind him didn't dare speak, and Shining Armor continued.
"If you do, I will need to examine exactly what your training officer taught you. Who knows what will happen to him?"
One of the other ponies started to protest, but it faltered as soon as it started.
"Oh, so you also have no respect for rank as well? It seems there's a huge flaw in our training program. I'll speak to him about that as well, but for now, I want you to go run 80 laps around the entire castle perimeter. Then I want you to remove those private rankings from your armor. You will restart basic training tomorrow. Understood, recruits?"
Shining Armor stressed the final word loudly, and there was a shuffling of armor. The bullies ran off. Silence reigned for a few more seconds until Shining Armor said,
"As you were."
The conversation slowly resumed as Comet felt a light hoof on his back.
"You okay, soldier?"
Came Shining Armor's voice again, and Comet wiped some of the remaining cream spinach off his face.
"I've been worse, sir,"
Comet replied shakily. He was both nervous and mortified that the captain of the whole Royal Guard of Equestria was standing right behind him. Mustering all the confidence he turned to face him. Shining Armor's eyes widened at Comet's face, but he didn't have his hoof on Comet. As it turned out, Angel did. He made a mental note to thank her later.
"Oh, my," Shining Armor sputtered. Did those guards do that to you?"
Comet gave an embarrassed grin, but Angel spoke up.
No, I gave that to him,
She stated confidently.
He startled me and I accidentally slugged him.
Shining Armor's gaze shifted to her, and he nodded his head in understanding.
So, a bat pony and a Pegasus, he mused. What are your names?
Recruit Comet Burst, sir.
Recruit Angel Beats, sir.
Shining Armor smiled at them both and said,
Why don't you both come with me? There's 2 ponies I think you would like to meet.
Or rather, meet you. Not thinking of disregarding a request by their superior officer, Comet and Angel immediately left with Shining Armor. He led them through passageways throughout the castle, asking various questions to the recruits. Comet rarely answered, but Angel eagerly expounded on any subject he could think of. Before long, the trio found themselves outside an unfamiliar room on a spire. 2 unicorn guards stood resolutely and still, even crossed their spears in front of Shining Armor.
State your business and passphrase, one of them said in a very gruff manner.
Shining Armor stared directly ahead and said,
I am here to speak to the Phoenix and Nightingale. Passphrase is, the only way up is down.
The guards uncrossed their spears, and Shining nodded to them. His horn glowed, and the door swung open, revealing a spectacular room bathed in sunlight. Comet and Angel both had to shield their eyes, mostly due to Angel's sensitivity to bright lights, and Comet's bad eye, but they followed Shining Armor inside anyways. The door swung shut behind them, and the light adjusted to a normal level. Both Comet and Angel finally got a good look around them. Their jaws dropped simultaneously.
Comet, Angel, I would like you to meet Princess Celestia and Luna,
Shining Armor stated. The two magnificent alicorns sat around an elegantly designed table, one pure white and the other starry midnight blue. A set of magenta eyes as well as a set of sapphire ones turned to see their visitors, and they both smiled.
Oh, dear me, this is quite a surprise, Shining, came the musical voice of Princess Celestia.
Comet immediately bowed his head in respect, but Angel's slack face tightened to a look of glee. The 2 alicorns stood up and trotted over to the trio.
Welcome, young ones. I take it you are new recruits? Celestia asked gently.
Comet gulped before he could respond. Princess Luna spoke.
What happened to thou?
Luna shouted at them. Comet recoiled in fear, and Angel's grin faltered into a frown. Celestia's grin became an expression of horror. She prodded Luna in the side and said,
Sister, there is no need for the royal Canterlot voice here.
Luna gave an awkward grin and said,
My apologies. I'm not used to using a calm voice yet. If thou wouldst explain, though, why is your eye so dark?
Angel gave the full explanation of the events leading up to the black eye incident, as both sisters couldn't help but laugh. Their laughs were in no way insulting, but Comet couldn't even begin to grin at Angel's animated explanation. Soon, the 5 of them were sitting around the table, eating lunch and exchanging stories. Luckily for Comet, the recruitment office fiasco stayed out. An hour later, the Bat Pony, Angel, and Pegasus Comet thanked the royal sisters and left their quarters. Shining Armor stood there with the 2 princesses, and Celestia sipped their tea.
I see why you introduced them to us, Celestia spoke. They are quite a pair.
That's exactly what the recruitment officer said. Shining Armor replied.
The Pegasus possesses quite the solid temperament of an officer, and the Bat Pony shows incredible social skills.
There we go. Luna sighed heavily before speaking.
'Tis a shame that the training breaks those vulnerable skills. Valuable skills. The guards used to be loved by every pony, not a symbol of iron.
Celestia smiled at her younger sister and said,
Well, Luna, if you like them so much, I do believe Shining Armor is a way to put their skills to use.
Luna turned to Shining Armor and gave him a quizzical look. Shining cleared his throat and said,
I believe they are well suited as a pair to be trained as corporals of your personal forces. Comet will bring much needed stability to the Solar Guard, while Angel will prove to soften the Lunar Guard's rigid standing. Your own Lunar Guard rather frightened the ponies of Ponyville during the last nightmare night. Lunar hung her head, not wanting to remember that night. Cessna smiled at her and said, "Dear sister, my own guard has been an unorganized force since Shining's promotion, which allowed Queen Chrysalis to get close to Princess Cadence. Your guard is an example of the sternness, while mine is an uncoordinated mess. This will work out nicely." She turned to Shining Armor and said, "How do you intend to get them to work together? The stories that delightful angel told us often involve Comet being rather resentful of her." Shining grinned at the princess and said, "You mind if I borrow Philomena for a bit?" God. Later that day, Angel wouldn't stop talking about having lunch with the princesses, even though Comet was there as well. "Can you believe it? I never thought we'd actually meet them," she shouted as she fluttered happily. God damn it. Comet rolled his eyes and gave no response, feeling his usual annoyance of Angel returning. Until lights out, which was 9 hours later, he put up with her non-stop talking, as well as Corporal Feathermane's next lesson of hoof-to-hoof combat. Okay, so that was Chapter 4. Thank you guys for listening. Leave a comment down below. Sorry about stuttering and stuff. I'm getting back to it. But in any case, thank you guys for listening. Yeah.